Now, stakeholders are calling on the Nigerian government to adopt prudent fiscal policy measures and create a business environment that promotes non-oil export growth and competitiveness. Meanwhile, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria says a weak naira is an opportunity for the country to boost export trade. Bamidele Ayemibo, the chief executive officer of 3T Impex Consultant, joins me now for more on these. Bamidele, thanks a lot for joining us on the show today. Now, when we take a look at some of the numbers we've seen so far, full year 2023, non-oil export hit $4.5 billion, and for the half-year period of 2024, we also see Nigeria earn about $2.7 billion as well. Now, the question would be whether it's a safe sail to saying we would even beat the 2023 target. However, some headwinds have emerged which have impacted largely the sort of export volumes Nigeria would have been able to consolidate on. What's your take on the likely trajectory we might see within this quarter and whether or not these headwinds would continue to persist?
No, we expect an increase actually, because generally when you look at Q1, when you look at the 2023 Q1, Q2, 2024 Q1, Q2, you see an increase in the volume of what was done so far. And if you understand the fact that towards the end of the year, we tend to have an increase in the volume of export, because particularly October, November, December, because of the harvest season of most commodities. So we expect to see a much higher, probably more. We have 2.7, maybe probably close to 3, so we might be ending up at maybe 5.7 to about 6 billion, all things being equal, as the economics people will say, before the end of 2024.
Exactly. And this is already 3 months down the line since Nigeria began trading as well under the Guided Trade Initiative, under the African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, the question is whether or not we can sustain this sort of trajectory across different platforms where Nigeria is looking to scale its offerings.
Yes, we can. We have what it takes to do. We just need leadership to be able to ensure we have a leader. We need the government to provide leadership, to be able to guide the sector, to be able to ensure the sector achieves its objective. What we've not seen in the sector, which I've spoken about several times, is a strategic vision. And this should come from top to bottom, not just the NEPC CEO, Madam Noyen, for example, only talking about it. We also need the presidency, the minister, the president himself, telling us about what his vision is to be able to grow non-oil export sector and diversify the economy. If we have that kind of leadership like that provision by the government or by the president in particular, we should be able to achieve this objective, because we have what it takes to be able to actually take advantage of it. It was good that eventually it came to pass, because we waited for it for long for us to be able to have the guided initiative, but eventually, thanks to the National Coordinating Office headed by Olusegun Awolowo and his team, together with the office, the AFCD office in Ghana and NEPC, all coming together to make that happen, which is commendable. But we need to now go beyond that initiative and launch and begin to see actual trade happening more frequently within the continent. So from Nigeria to different parts of the continent.
And talking about how Nigeria is positioning in all of this mix now, trading with other parts of the continent, one of the latest we've heard from the NEPC is also the introduction of dedicated centers to address exporters' complaints. We've also heard of the introduction of the national single window to help enhance trade transparency and also reduce bottlenecks. That was introduced in August this year now. At the end of the day, all of these still latch onto the bigger picture of port automation and smart shipping. Do you think Nigeria is positioning right across these different verticals?
Do you think what? I didn't get the last question.
Yes, I'm also talking about how Nigeria is positioning in the mix to scale the sort of trade that we'll see with the rest of Africa. Port automation and smart shipping. The strategies around this area yet to reach optimum level for Nigeria.
Sometimes I have some issue with the strategy. Like when you're trying to solve a problem, you need to first of all identify the root cause. If you understand the root cause, it becomes easier to be able to provide the right solution to the problem. And policy that will be able to make, on the part of the government, and policy that will be able to help the government achieve its objective. We need to grow non-oil export volume, right? Single window is a good way to go, but single window is still being worked on. We're not there yet. What I think we need to focus a lot more now is, that's why I said we need strategic vision. we need to identify what exactly do we want to export, as in what are the products we want to congregate around. NEPC identify about 20 different products, although I have issue with some of the products, but it is good at least they have about 20 different products highlighted that they will want us to look at. The next thing is, how do we now increase the volume of export of these products? How do we increase the production? How do we increase the volume of export? Then we also have to increase the number of people doing the export. So if we are going to grow non-export volume significantly in Nigeria, we must aggressively grow the number of exporters so we can reduce the per capita export volume per exporter in terms of the number of export volume per head. The reason is because the more the number of exporters we have, then the higher the chance. Because when you look at, if you look at the top exporter in Nigeria and you check their export in the last 5 years, they have reached their peak. Maybe they are doing $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, $100 million per annum. And they have not been increased of up to 5-10% in the last 5 years because they are at their peak, they are at their capacity. So if we are now going to grow the volume, we need new people coming in.
So Bamidele, what would then be the incentives to drive this sort of volume you're looking out for? The call for fiscal incentives. Paint us a picture. What would be your recommendation to government? And on the part of the CBN governor saying a weak naira is an opportunity for us to boost export trade, do you buy into this idea?
Yes. Now, what the CBN governor is saying is correct. No doubt about it. But still coming back, how do we enjoy the weak naira as a means of exporting? Is to grow the non-oil export volume. And to grow the non-oil volume, we need to increase the number of exporters. And what I think the government needs to do is to increase a lot of advocacy and publicity and incentive to encourage new businesses to come into export. So you give enough support. For example, freight out of Nigeria is very expensive. Can you support in terms of freight to be able to reduce the cost of export from Nigeria? Can you support in terms of how much they pay to move it by rail into the port? Can you support to ensure that export expansion grant, which is one of the incentives that many people have benefited in the past, is paid as at when due? So we need to encourage more entrance into the sector to increase the number of people exporting, to be able to increase the number of volume of export out of Nigeria.
Well, Bamidele would have to leave the conversation here for now. Thank you so much for your time on the show today. That was Bamidele Ayemibo, the Chief Executive Officer of 3T Impex Consultant.